Right, it's 4 o'clock by my watch. So, welcome everybody. Welcome to this SLT Insights session on underperformance and underachieving and making a lasting impact and making it quickly. My name is Phil. I work in AQA's customer training and events team. So I'm going to be with you this afternoon. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. You'll notice that your mics and your cameras are disabled, but the chat is enabled. So as regards interaction, that would be your first point of call. Sabrina's also going to send some polls around the audience for a little bit of interaction and just to gauge your sort of demographic. And with that said, it's my great pleasure to introduce Sabrina Ahmed-Qureshi, who is the Director of Quality Learning Innovation at Hartford Regional College. Sabrina, hi, welcome in. And I'd like to give the floor to you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Phil. Yeah, but real pleasure to be here. I've just got a couple of messages saying there's an echo on the sound in the chat.
Is that me or is that you? Because I'm about to shut up and mute myself.
Just coming through in the chat saying it's very difficult to hear.
Right. What I would say to that is if anyone is having any visual or audio problems, have a quick check of your mic preferences. So if you go into the top right, there's a little arrow. Make sure they're where they need to be. If not, it sounds really IT group here, but leave the room and re-enter, and that should iron out some issues for you.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Hey, give me a shout when the slides are visible.
They are coming up for me. There we go, Sabrina. I can see your slide deck.
Brilliant. Well, thanks for joining me, everyone. Real pleasure to be here working with AQA. So my background before becoming a Director of Quality and Learning Innovation was around rapid change management and rapid improvement. It was primarily in further education around maths and English, but I also looked at initial teacher education and focused in the North East before relocated to Hertfordshire. So what I really worked on was looking at trends and data and using that to inform quick change, whether it was recruitment, curriculum, staffing, rationale, whatever it was, we did it to make an impact. And in all cases, we had success. In some cases, we had significant success. The biggest thing that I used and what I went back to over and over again was parental engagement and student kind of autonomy and metacognition. So that's what we're really going to focus on today. So looking at how we can maximize the parents to support us in what we're trying to achieve and how we can get students to help us help them. So I'm going to start off quickly with a poll. And it's going to come up in the chat area for you guys to complete if you have the functionality. Now, if you don't have the functionality because your Teams is restricting it, don't worry, you can type in your response just so I get a gauge of where we're getting our senior leaders from. Brilliant. I think we've got a nice mix. We've got some schools and colleges. Looks like there's a few more schools, which is okay, because I've used a lot of the evidence base for today's session around schools, but my experiences are from college. Fantastic. Thanks, everyone. So next question, also another poll, or you can type it into the chat, is can you put on a scale of 1 to 5, how effective do you think your parental engagement is? And I think it'd be interesting to see if it differs between schools and colleges. Yeah, very mixed, right? Okay, interesting. Got some really highly engaged parents in some areas, maybe not so much in others. Okay, well, I'm hoping you can get even a takeaway today to try out. And again, a lot of these are quick and easy fixes that don't cost a lot, which is why I use them. So moving on then, could I get some examples, particularly from those that have scored quite highly, in terms of what are you doing? Any examples of what you're currently doing with your parents to get them involved, invested in the provision you're providing? Is there any examples you can share? What's currently going on? Right, brilliant. Thanks. We've got some parent forum meetings, information meetings coming through, parent survey, workshop, regular meetings, workshops. Yeah. Let's try. Yeah. A lot of parent meetings and surveys coming through. We've got some letters. Teaching the parents even part of the test. Interesting one. I like that. Thanks, Angela. Yep. Brilliant. So we've got a range of different things. Again, I'll share with you kind of some of the research behind it and what we've done that's had a lot of impact and quick wins. Again, continue to add to the chat if you've got some ideas, by all means. So in terms of parental engagement, the evidence suggests that we're looking at 4 months additional progress. And then really how we do that is dependent on how much progress we get. And this research was done by the Education Endowment Foundation, and they assessed that parental engagement had it had a moderate impact for very low cost. And it was a big research and it's based on extensive evidence. A lot of the research suggests that primary schools benefit more, but the research is still strong for secondary and post-secondary. The key thing that the research indicates is that it's about the quality and quantity of learning that takes place in the home and what they're doing with that. So what you'll find is we've got different categories of parents. We've got parents that can't support the learners because they don't have that capacity. It might be because they're working or they don't have the knowledge themselves to support them for a curriculum, whether they haven't accessed it before or haven't kept up to date with what's on the curriculum. And we've got parents that might not have a positive experience with schools because they might have had a negative school upbringing and kind of disengage. So that was what I faced. So what we needed to do, again, very similar to what the research suggests, is tailoring those communications and encouraging positive dialogue. And in some instances, as suggested in the chat, is sometimes teaching parents how to support. They don't have that skill set innate in them. So workshops and working with parents is really important, as well as asking them, to support in reading and homework, enabling them to do so and teaching those skills are just as important. Regular reviews of how the school's working with parents. So we had to do a real big analysis on what our engagement was. So I used to work in a really large college. We had, over 9,000 students, and we had no way of recording how different areas were actually liaising with parents. It was all very abstract. And we did no analytics. Who was engaging? Why were they engaging? How were they engaging? So it's only when we started tracking that information, we could see what was most effective for who, for what year groups, what curriculum areas. And then offering that support, as I mentioned, if parents want to engage but aren't so sure, or we need to open and widen that participation by being more flexible in how we do so. So it meant a lot of review, a lot of analysis, a lot of kind of thinking outside the box and how to get what we wanted, our message, out to the people that needed it. So it's about being impactful and accessible. And again, as mentioned in the chat, it was using a range of different modes. And it's not going to be one size fits all. You'll find certain demographics respond to text messages really well. Some people are more digitally literate, might respond to emails really well and use the apps. Whatever it is, again, once you do your data analysis, you'll be able to tell whether it's online meetings, letters, social media, whatever. My approach was to use a range of different ones to communicate the same message. So it might have seemed overkill at first if the parent was on the college Facebook, as well as the Instagram, as well as the letters, but it meant they definitely got the message, and it didn't cost us much. It was just a resource of copying and pasting the same message into the different socials. And what you found is that they then forward on the messages to other parents as well, and it enables more people to access it. So with the text messaging, that had a bit more of a cost than the other bits. So I've decided to focus a little bit on the text messages. What I found with text messages was that we created an auto-generated text, which meant it didn't use up staffing time. And that was upon marking registers and the notice of parents of absence. And I know there are loads of platforms now that do that for us. And that message that we sent was tweaked and adapted 3 or 4 times when we initially started this. So initially it was just your young person is absent. Then it was like a call to action. Your young person absent, please notify us how. And then we didn't specify what we needed in that notification. So we tweaked it again. So really think about, if you're setting up something like that, what is it that you need the parents to do? And I can see there someone suggested, which brought me to my next thing, is translation. Again, there are software out there that you can use that translates and takes the text that you've got and puts it into the preferred language of that parent if they've got an app system. Really good practice. We also had audio WhatsApp groups, and we could send out audio messages to those that were identified most at risk as well. Then we thought the text will get in a good response rate once we got the messaging right, but we needed to do a bit more with it. So we looked at progress updates, and we used it with our systems, internal systems. So at college we use ProMonitor. There's so many out there. And you can create an auto text. And again, so praise and promotion, we use that, missed homework, coursework, and behavior reporting. So that enabled parents to keep up to date. And especially for the older teenage students, what we found is parents were so surprised when they come into parents' evening and we say, actually, so-and-so is behind by 4 assignments. And they're like, well, I had no idea. Like, what, how come this is the first I'm hearing about it? So it allows those personalized messages to go out, not just the generic absence ones, and enables the parents to kind of understand that learner journey and where they're on it without waiting for those 2 or 3 periods in the year where they get a parents' meeting. And sometimes it's too late to turn it around at those points. And then we thought, again, doing really well with these progress updates and parents are responding and they're communicating. We then started to introduce the reminder text messages, and those are about upcoming exams, again, GCSE exams, any other kind of mock tests, interventions, and then also introduced more parent meetings. Initially, like I said, it was trial and error. We didn't really know how it was going to work. And again, at college, we didn't always have the right next of kin's messaging contact details. So it did take a little bit more of a systematic approach. So we had to guarantee to get a parent's phone number in place and then roll out this process. But once it was in hand, it grew and grew and was really effective. And then we had to tweak the messaging, and then parents wanted more because they were engaging more. They wanted more information. We thought, okay, we need to elevate this to the next step. So what we did with that was to then offer online meetings. And this was because it was a cost-saving measure in terms of keeping staff late in the night. We didn't want them in rooms in the dark in the winter with parents, especially if they're having difficult conversations. And it also meant that parents were more flexible about when they could attend the meetings and who they could have in the meeting. So the points to consider with the online meetings, and I know some schools already do this, but some don't. If you don't, please really consider providing more online meetings. But you need to consider the accessibility, the digital literacy of who you're inviting, rules about netiquette, being really clear, who should be in the room, who shouldn't be in the room, who is the meeting for, any kind of private matters need to be clarified. Timings, in terms of when you're offering the meetings, duration, how long they're for. Sometimes I've got 4 children and I get all their parent meetings before 5 o'clock. It's a nightmare because I can't attend any of them. So I have had to ask specifically, can you please arrange some meetings after 5 so I can attend, or in my lunch hour? But just having that offer and option available is so valuable to a parent who's really invested in their child's education, but can't access all that support. And then sometimes one comes through and it's an hour long. And I think, well, I can't take a full lunch hour sitting in a one-to-one discussing one child. I've got 4 of them. So it was, just be mindful of that. So again, we kind of stick to 10 to 15 minutes to discuss progress. And I think that works. And what we did was preload the information. So again, if you've got systems on there that can download that information about that student and send it out to them via the email when you send the meeting invite, it allows the parent to digest, to ask any questions of the young person and say, what's happening with this? What's the story with this? Why haven't you done that? And you're coming then fully prepared for the meeting. It then means you're not giving information, you're actually discussing that. Which has really benefited what we do with our parents. Because sometimes, again, they come onto a meeting and it's that shock factor, especially in college. Your son has got 30% attendance, and all of a sudden, all we're doing is discussing why it's at 30% rather than how to improve their achievement outcomes. So then we need another meeting, and that's more costly on time. So preload as much information as you can. So again, we had to trial different things. We tried group meetings, and these are really good for general communications, how to prepare for exams, what you could be doing to support your young person, get someone on hand to manage that chat, make sure that, mics are on mute. It's the worst thing when you hear parents screaming in the background to the kids, and things like that when they're on group meetings. Check what the full functionality is of the team. So whoever's leading the meeting, make sure they're fully confident when using it. We've had a few car crashes. And question control, because quickly group meeting can spiral into something more negative. They start bringing in other things, mentioning other things that goes on off topic. So bring them back and really keep it precise. And again, if you keep it to the point, really organized, really structured, that has the biggest impact. And we use these at the start of the year. So the resources the students need, what the expectations are, homework rules, the disciplinary process, and really outline clearly, this is what we need your young person to do. Failure to do this will result in this. If they do this, we'll get them a qualification, they'll develop these skills, and we'll work with you. We had loads of links to the relevant awarding organizations. So again, like AQA, how to use their website, where to get the support, who to contact. Because again, if you're working in a college or if you're in a school, who do they contact with particular issues is really important. And so that was clarified. Then we did another group meeting through near Christmas time, and it was just an update. We finished these topics. Your young person should have completed X, Y, and Z in their GCSE curriculum. Now we're moving on to this. And we gave them tips and strategies. We're going to be covering ratio. If you're decorating your house, if you're doing this, think about how much paint you're going to need. Think about, the area you're going to have to cover, and just embedding it into their natural conversation at home. If you're cooking, gravy or whatever, what's the ratio of water to whatever you're using, flour. And it was just allowing parents ways to slip in the vocabulary, the terminology, so that when the young person was at home, it was still kind of used and contextualized. The one-to-one meetings were most impactful for those highest at risk, and they were the hardest to reach. These were the parents that we struggled to engage with in multiple ways, and we did pester. We pestered, we texted them, we emailed them, and we arranged one-to-one meetings. And it meant that doing them online on Teams meant that we weren't sat waiting in a room with 3 members of staff for a parent to arrive. It meant that, we could sit at our computer and still carry on with our administrative jobs. And as soon as a parent joined the meeting, we were ready. But the timing is key. So again, getting that bit of context from the young person, what does your mum do? What does your dad do? What kind of hours do they work? To enable them to attend. And again, are the parents together? Do you want to send 2 separate emails to both of them to join at the same time? Is it another carer that should be involved or invited? And and then being really clear who should know what in terms of confidentiality. Should the young person be in the meeting as well is really important. What we weren't doing was that initially we were setting up meetings with parents and carers, and we had all this curriculum knowledge and information how they were progressing, but we weren't always getting the information from the speech and language or the SENCO, or we weren't getting information from the the safeguarding team or the mental health workers. Although the information was there and we can get the comments, that rich data wasn't there. So sometimes it's useful in your organization, even if they pop in for 5 minutes and give an update from someone and they see a face on screen, it reassures those parents that the support is in place and that we're doing everything we can to get this young person through. And sometimes that's all they need to know, which is enough to motivate them to step it up a notch. So just in my experience, those are the ways that work best. Again, I'm sure you've all got your own ways of doing things. Another thing we noticed another local school was doing, and then we started doing, was posting video tutorials on the website. So school websites, again, we used video sharing platforms like YouTube, and sent out links to parents so they were all there. And again, it was just like self-help. How can you help your student study? What kind of things should you be doing? Take away their devices. They don't need to do it on this. The website they should be using, what resources they can access, where they can access, and offering that skill set online for a video tutorial, as well as group meetings, and allowed anyone to catch up if they'd missed the initial meetings. Another thing we realised was that we sent out these printed letters at the start of the year with calendar events, and as we know, things change. So keep calendars live. So we created a SharePoint and we added all of the parents onto the SharePoint. It was a parent one, and we kept the live calendar there, all of our videos there, all of our kind of updates and reminders on the SharePoint. And again, you can do it for your website, you can do it for social media. It just makes life so much easier for everyone involved. And with the SharePoint, you can just link it with anything else. The other thing was just open events, nothing to discuss, nothing to make it formal. It was just come in, see the department, see the work. Let's showcase some of the displays we have, see what the environment is like for your young person, and then just have a chat. We'll offer a coffee and some cake and invite the parents in. And it was really kind of casual, non-threatening way to strike up a relationship with parents, and showcase what you can achieve by seeing some of the exemplar work on the walls and in the classrooms. We also use that opportunity to show parents the exam halls, if you're sitting exams, if your curriculum is, and sometimes it's been a long time since these parents have sat exams. Some parents haven't ever sat an exam, so they have a deeper sense of appreciation for what that young person's going through, because sometimes they just don't understand either. So that really helped. And when they saw, a massive hall, they're in that hall, they're silenced, we got the parents to sit at the desks. So right now, everyone's sitting at the desk, they're in silence, and you can see how uncomfortable the parents were. And it is quite daunting, and it does make you nervous. And I think they, a lot of them went away and were like, oh, that felt really weird. And you can see them conversing with their young person and saying, oh, I didn't think, it'd be in such a big hall like this. And that hopefully enabled a bit of a understanding between that parent and child and appreciation for what they go through. Volunteer opportunities. Now, I was laughed at when I suggested this, but I tried it and it went well. So again, we got volunteers then to help out with our open events and our casual events. We've got people to come in as part of advisory councils. I know it was mentioned in the chat, you're already doing this in a lot of instances. We also used specific forums. So again, at the college, we had college-wide forum, but then we had math specialist parents, we had English specialist parents. So for particular schools, we focused on smaller forums to understand, what they were doing per curriculum, per area. And then we asked them, what other parent forums should we have? Should we have an enrichment forum? Should we have a mental health forum? And it really grew massively. So the parents who were interested in one thing said, "Oh, you should join. You'd be really good at this element," and they wanted to offer their skill sets. And then they had a real vested interest in supporting all of those students. And then if they were in supporting with an event, and then they were like, "Oh, Johnny should have been here, right? I know Johnny's mum. I'll find out what's going on or why they're behind." And then they were kind of supporting with a community approach to getting students in or through or engaged. And that really worked. Again, that could go in any direction. Again, think about your governing bodies and how diverse they are. And are they diverse enough? So, head teacher at secondary school said, an area that they struggled in the school and an area of improvement for them was around digital developments and infrastructure. So intentionally, they sought out a governing body that had background in specific areas. So double check what the need is, what your demographic need is, and does your governing body cover that in their skill set? And again, they are supposed to challenge us, but likewise, they need to deliver on the skills they're promising to support with. So do check. And if there are areas for development coming in your school or in your college, ask if they can fulfill that. If not, you should be looking to appoint or looking to find that skill set in your governance. When doing all of this and in really empowering parent views, in reflection, the first year we did it, we didn't really show the impact of it, and we didn't show the impact of how successful it was back to the parents. So I think there was a point where the support and everything was starting to die out, and it was probably around about February, March time. It's summertime, people are getting busy, they're getting out more, they want to see the sun, they want the weather got better. So what we had to do is kind of re-inject interest by showing the impact of the first term. And then we worked on diversifying those forums. So again, this is where we grew. We got different range of forums set up. And we started making the parents kind of involved in their decision making. And this is where, when they said something, we took it on board, we discussed it as a panel in SLT, and then we said, this is the decision based on what you have said, and fed that back to parents through newsletters, through Sway, through social media. And we went back to the original forum that proposed it and kind of got them to elaborate on why they wanted it and the reason behind it on a video. And then we responded in a video and said, because you said this, we've done this, and showed that, their voice mattered. Again, as I mentioned, we've offered loads of welcome packs with calendars and all of that stuff. But initially, they were focused around the student. So the student will need this, but then we started adding parent welcome packs. So this is for the parent, that is for the student. The parent wants showcases how they can support the videos, QR codes of how to access things, when to expect parent meetings, when to expect reports, what certain messages mean. You'd be amazed how creative students are. So parent gets a text message about an absence, and somehow a student will say, that's a mistake. There's an IT issue in the college, and they just sent that out to everyone. It's nothing to do with me. And for 3-4 weeks, that parent's getting a text message believing what that young person has said. And that's a true story. So really think about those expectations. Got some questions coming through. I will come back to those questions. Don't worry. Surveys to get their views, again mentioned in the chat earlier, brilliant way to get their views, but again we didn't initially show the impact of their views through the surveys. So then we shared what we could of the survey results, We put it in a lot of our reports to SLT and to governors, and then we shared it back to the parents once approved. And a lot of it was really positive, especially where we'd seen students had been at the college for a couple of years. They said the increased parental engagement improved their students' confidence in the college, as well as the parents' understanding of what was needed. And we used those quotes to demonstrate the impact. So if you're doing all of these things, you know, what is the impact? What are you doing with that evidence? What are you doing with what you're getting? And how you're using it to improve is basically the key takeaway there. So that kind of summarizes parental engagement and what I did and how I built on from an initial text message and a student welcome pack. And I continued to keep going with it, build up momentum. And we ended up getting a real community of parents that were involved, fully invested in that learner journey, not just for their child, but for other people and the staff. We even got some teachers out of it, believe it or not. So got some parents so interested, they took on teacher training and joined the college. So yeah, it's amazing what you can do. I will answer Miss B. Hart. So you've asked, how do you get around students and manage to block the school's phone number? Again, if you're using a range of different modes to contact parent and annoy them. So again, we did letters, we did social media, everything. Eventually that comms goes there. I don't know how plausible it is at school, but again, at college, when they were local, we did have a progress monitor that was able to go and hand deliver and even knock on student doors if they were in the local area for the highest at risk. And I was in a demographic that was in a really high poverty zone, really breadline students. So in a lot of cases, it was safeguarding concerns, and we did have to go knocking on doors to double check where students were. So I don't know if that's the same instance and if it's possible in all your cases, but we tried all the modes of communication and then physical contact where possible. So then I'm going to move on to kind of student engagement. And by student engagement, I mean, how are they engaged and how are they co-creating that curriculum with you? So Paul here is 1 to 5, 5 being highly effective. You know, how do you use your student voice to inform your curriculum? If you just put it in the poll, or if you can put it into the chat, just the number 1 to 5, 5 being highly effective. Okay, brilliant. And then, as before, especially for those that have scored a bit higher, what are you currently doing? Can I get a couple of examples of what you're doing to really take the students' thoughts, views, their autonomy, and get them involved in the curriculum? Yeah, student surveys, very similar to the parents, you might find. I'll just get a quick drink while you do that. So very similar in the kind of responses here, a lot of them around surveys and forums, similar to like a council, I suppose. So the next question will be quite interesting to see how it ties in to what you're doing. So are you using metacognition in your curriculum design? So when talking about student engagement, is in that curriculum design, are you factoring in metacognition? Most people are saying yes, a few no's, some could be better. Okay, so this was another kind of game changer for us. And when we started doing this, metacognition was just really amping up in educational pedagogy. So for those people, again, forgive me if you already know, we use metacognition to really make the curriculum responsive and really make it about student engagement by giving them autonomy. And this is about them taking ownership of their own learning, and that inevitably increase their motivation and their outcomes. So metacognition, it's about, well, it's very closely tied to self-regulation, and it's about supporting those pupils or young people to think about their own learning explicitly and teaching them strategies to learn. So learning to learn, it's quite silly in its definition, but sometimes we take it for granted that we're just given information, we don't know how to process it, and then we don't know how to use that information. So it's more about teaching them to effectively absorb the information in a way that can be reused and re-articulated, which is what most curriculum need us to do in some form or another, either through an exam, a portfolio, a role play, and it's those strategies that enable them to do so. So it's about building up those strategies. Again, we used it a lot in English and maths, especially in maths. And the Education Endowment Foundation breaks it down into 3 essential components. Now, cognition is just the knowledge, getting that subject knowledge, and your tutors, your teachers, your lecturers will do that. It's the knowing, understanding, and learning. They're aware that that's taking place. The metacognition is the process of learning to learn. Like now you are learning, how are you processing that? What are you doing with that? What are you going to do to retrieve that? And then the motivation comes from engaging with that. So all those 3 essential components need to be in place for it to be effective. So again, me and my team, we went away, we attended loads of CPD, really tried to unpick how are we going to get college students that hate English and maths, majority of them, they've failed it already in school, majority of them. How are you going to get them to want to learn English and maths? If we can do this, we could do it for any subject. And we did. So first things we did, rewards, small promises, small gains. You know, we really focused around behaviors and attitudes around that kind of negative mindset they had around English and maths. We noticed a few bad habits have crept in with some teachers, so we ironed those out. And it was about making sure, you know, those rewards were fairly applied. So it wasn't rewarding those that always get rewarded. It was rewarding those for making the positive gain to the best of their ability. And then we did have some students, and as you can imagine, in a lot of the GCSE reset classes, we get a lot of students with additional learning needs. And we had students that are coping with different social, emotional, mental health, and kind of sanctions or punishments were resulting in rewards being taken away. And that was creating more of a negative culture. So the reward is given, and that's given for that action. The punishment is a separate action and shouldn't be confused with the two. So then that's something we stop straight away. If there was a sanction that's separate, and it doesn't mean taking away a reward. So for instance, we allowed students onto a trip because they had really positive attendance for the first term, and we arranged the trip, and then all of a sudden, 2 students' attendance absolutely, you know, bottomed out. They weren't coming in, and teachers were saying we need to remove them off the trip. But no, because the trip was for the first term, and their attendance was really solid for the first term, so they'll go on the trip. We will then create a sanction or an intervention to address the attendance in term 2. Market the rewards again, put it out on the socials, put it out with the parents, put it out wherever you can, and spread the word, make it something meaningful. Amazon vouchers, you know, device tech, things like that go down really well with students. AirPods, there seems to be an infinite need for AirPods. And then again, using metacognition to make them understand that that action results in a consequence, or there's a cause and effect for behaviors. So we noticed a difference in behaviors from students declining post-COVID. less resilient, less willing to sit in a classroom, a lot more confrontation from students. So we verbalized the processes as you would with metacognition and kind of said, if I was in this situation, what I would be doing is trying to avoid being suspended. And I'd be thinking I could offer an apology for my behavior, which was unprofessional, and then I can move on and continue my lesson today without suspension. So just verbalizing that and rationalizing it and explaining to the student, these are the steps that I could, that they could take, allows them to kind of think, well, I can think like that too. Well, maybe I should do that too. And it meant that our suspension rate was reduced massively. And by suspension, I mean, we used to give a 1-day suspension for swearing or, intentional truanting from classes or anything like that. And that reduced significantly because we were verbalizing options that we would take and we were modeling and they could do themselves. Student voice, as you mentioned, give them space and make them aware of that space. There's so many instances you go into a school, they have a student council, but none of the other cohort other than the student council know that there's a student council. They don't even know who the student council representative is. And again, when I've gone out on Ofsted inspections, that's a question we have asked sometimes. And you'd be amazed that they've got this all singing and dancing school council and they're really rave about it, but none of the other peers know. So how are you using your council? Are the summaries shared? Are the kind of impact, again, is that shared? Again, what we did was a you said, we did. So our students said they wanted a common room, they wanted a vending machine on the 3rd floor. And if it's reasonable, we've done that and we've marked that. We said, you said you wanted this. 3 months later, you got that vending machine. This is the power of your voice. Please continue to use it. And again, teaching them, to make reasonable requests, the reflecting, metacognition all the way through. Now, is that a sensible request? In the council meetings, just say, we can't really bring Nando's into the school. Is that a sensible request? And just having those conversations to monitor and manage it. And another thing, we underestimate how much they rely on evidence to support what we're trying to do. So any change or new initiative, and again, coming from a rapid change management background, I had to use a lot of evidence to inform it. I use that with my students. I use that with all of the Maths and English, ESOL, digital students. And I said that, if there's a new change, it should be based on evidence. And I shared that with all stakeholders, including students. So we're going to now introduce a new curriculum. We're going to start teaching this way now. We're going to use standardized slides. This is why. So if you get a standardized slide deck, it means that if Mary's not in and Tom comes in, you're still getting the same visuals, you're still getting the same content, it's all going to follow through, and your cognitive load is not going to be overwhelmed because you're not going to suddenly see flying animations and GIFs that Simon likes to use, but Mary's never used. And when we explain that, students are, oh yeah, that makes sense. Okay, yeah. And we got much less resistance. It was much less, well, I don't like so-and-so teaching this way, and I don't like this. I'm sick of seeing these slides. When they understood, they realized that change isn't being done to them. It's for a mutual gain. Again, when you're thinking about embedding metacognition, it could be done in whatever you do. So again, a lot of the schools I've visited, have seen, they use this approach, I do, we do, you do. I'm sure many of you do. So within the I do, it's demonstrating and scaffolding. It's really important at that stage you talk through and you model exactly what the students should be thinking in their head and what strategy they should be doing. So a lot of teacher talk, a lot of verbalizing and teaching them those strategies. So again, if it was a big maths problem, I'd talk it out. So, well, this is actually a basic fraction first. Let us work out the fraction. After we worked out the fraction, what we need to do is simplify it. And when they start hearing those steps and those strategies, you become their internal voice. And so it's developing them to create that internal voice that can cope with any problem that approaches them in an exam. And then when you do the guided practice with the we do, again, stolen a little bit of this from Rosenshine, it allows them to reflect and monitor on their strengths and areas of improvement. This is where they need to reflect. It needs to be a safe space to make mistakes. Again, I don't know if it's a cultural thing recently, but I've certainly seen it across the board. Students are so scared to share something that has an error on it. Again, not having that resilience. So a fostering of all of that, kind of make a mistake, but let's fix it together. Make a mistake, let's work a way out to get to the right answer or as close as possible to the right answer is a real struggle, because I think there's a generational thing where everything has to be filtered, everything has to be perfect first time round. So that guided practice is really essential. And again, we try to introduce a lot of additional resources here in terms of here's a crib sheet, here's a breakdown, here's a formula, here's a video you can watch, so they can self-help before they feel like they've hit a wall, and that's when they speak to a teacher or the subject expert. And then they get on to the you do, which is the independent practice. But here they also need to, again, reflect. But you need to make sure that independent practice isn't introduced too early, because otherwise that feeling of failure kicks in, and then you'll get that resistance and probably behavior issues as a result of that. So it's probably something you're already doing, but just think, are we talking through those models and strategies to the students verbally to enable them to fix their own problems in a productive way? Some of the questions, and I've stolen this from a website, is making them aware. Now, why are we doing it like this? Why do you think we're doing it like this? What's the first step? What should we do next? Let's break down the task. What strategies can we use if we hit a wall or a problem? You know, how successful was that strategy? Does that work for you? Again, in maths, there's so many different ways to do long division or multiplication. It's not a one size fits all. What works for you? Why don't you try this method instead? Does that work? And it's really important that we're using those kind of questions, and then they start using those questions on themselves. I'm not saying this was a quick fix. It took us about a full term before we could get the students confident enough to start doing it themselves. But it was such a worthwhile investment, because by the time they got to the exams, it was magical, because we didn't really need to teach. They were doing it themselves. So again, pre-assessments really help with that. So we kind of gauge where they are as students and making sure they got timely feedback. There's loads of software that can support with that, and it helps them to plan. But you need to do, regulatory checks throughout. So make sure there's planning, monitoring, and evaluating throughout. And they need to ask these questions. It's really important when you're getting a resistant student that we don't be dismissive of what they're saying. You get a lot of, I don't know. And it's those students that just lack that confidence to be able to take that risk. And I've found that one-to-one conversations with them allow us to go through and break some of those barriers down. And then when they're able to gauge those questions, it supports in the long term. You won't see the immediate impact, but it does support in the longer term. And by long term, I mean takes about 5 to 6 months. One thing we missed out, again, in the initial phases of better cognition was reflecting on the learning experiences. And as you can imagine, in college, they're with us for about 9 months, and it's just, you need to get ready for the exam. Come on, quick. But what we needed to do was include that reflection throughout, and we created key stages that they needed to reflect on the curriculum and what they were doing, what was working for them, what's not working with them. And again, as they started to progress through the year, the reflections were getting better and better. And then they were reflecting on their reflections. They're saying, oh, do you know what? I'm doing all right with this. And I was really impressed, because we developed just reflective people, and they could use that skill in whatever subject or curriculum moving forwards. So these are some of the strategies suggested by some of the evidence. I shan't read it out. I'll just put it on the board for a minute there. And what I did following the kind of research around that was looking at the exam wrappers and making it much more holistic, focusing on resilience and motivation, because we found that come exam period, that's when everything kind of waned and then picked up again massively. So that was really important. And it was about fostering that celebration of mistakes, but just learn from them. That's great. I'm so glad you tried that. However, have you thought about finding another way of doing it to get to a closer to the right answer? And really continuing that perseverance and never giving up. And then it was a 3 before me approach. So try this, try this, try this before asking me for help. And then it was learning from each other. And the teachers had to do the same thing. So teachers, if you're stuck with a student, try this, try this, try this, ask another member of staff, then ask the head of department. Sometimes it can get too competitive, or so-and-so's done really well, they've done it in 5 minutes. It was really important that they didn't keep comparing. They grow up very comparison kind of led. It's about their ability and have they made progress, and really encouraging that risk-taking and challenging. What I really loved was, and this is where my reflections got really good with my students, is that reflective journal. They had just a small book, and some teachers used their English book, and they used the back of the English book, and the learner then kind of said, I've done this really well today. I found, metaphors a real struggle initially. Now I'm writing, 5 or 6 metaphors in my creative writing. My mission is to use more creative metaphors or whatever. And as the year went on, you could see they were crossing off all of their missions later in the year with medals, and that improved their confidence, and they could see tangibly that they were making progress in the learning and the reflections were getting better. Just conscious of time, blitz through this. Again, just a quote there from Mindset Expert, and again, I used a lot of quotes to motivate the students. They hear it from us all the time. They hear it from schools all the time. They hear it from other people with little videos, little quotations to improve that motivation and increase that kind of student confidence. When you look at Javen Leonard's approach to metacognition, there's 7 steps. Again, this is what we use to underpin what we did in the college, and really simple, retrieving all of that stuff, explaining how to complete the task, showing them, modeling that strategy, memorizing it. So again, that's where our tip sheets came in, the videos came in, guided practice I referred to, the independent practice I referred to, and the structured reflection. So we incorporated that. We saw an increase. We were in the bottom quartile for maths. When I started, we ended up in the top quartile within that 9-month period by implementing the parent engagement and the metacognition approaches with our students. And it meant that there was a transfer of delivery from teacher-led at the start of the year to much more student-centered towards the end of the year, where they were then saying, I'll actually want to come to intervention. I've got this strategy. It's not quite working. Can you adapt it? Can you alter it? So you might start off really teacher-driven when you're activating that prior knowledge, but by the time you get to structured reflection and they're able to do it, the students facilitating and driving that learning. So that's just the 2 approaches I've used that came up as common occurrence in a lot of the roles I had that have worked really well for me. So that's it in a nutshell. I hope that's helped somewhat, even if it's a takeaway. I am going to go onto the chat, and if you've got any questions, please let me know, put them through.
Thank you so much for that, Sabrina. That was chock full of fantastic ideas and initiatives for the audience to go away and implement in their centres. For anyone who's interested in having a copy of the slide deck today, if you'd just like to check your inbox, you should have an invitation to download those from our customer portal. Now, while anyone's putting anything into the chat for questions for you, I'd just like to say that here at AQA, we are trying desperately to foster an SLT community. These sessions are for you, and therefore they should really work for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw my email into that chat. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear topics that are relevant to you, what's going on in your school at the moment, what you might want to see future sessions cover. Anything, just throw it my way, and we might get a presenter to come and sort of address those issues for you. We might call on you ourselves and work with you in order to produce a session ourselves. But thank you all for coming along today. And I wish you a nice evening, and I hope to see you back here in spring 2025 for the next SLT Insights session. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thanks for having me.